like to go live a little early, and then that way I can share the post around, get some people watching it, and
Yeah, yeah,
hang out. You know.
for sure.
So.
Hmm.
Sweet.
Oh god, just kicking the crap out of my mic stand here.
Man, it happens.
Let's see. How do I just get audio and video? How weird.
All right, cool.
How come? Well, that'll work. Let's try.
All right.
I don't know. You're like in a tiny window, so I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
All right.
not a clue.
I'm going to go ahead and give us a start. Normally I play my intro, but I'm just not going to bother.
Yeah.
All right. So. And we are good. Oh, hold on. Oh, wow. I'm awesome like that. No tracks are armed. Awesome. And now we are good to go.
Cool.
Let me get you back up here.
All right. Let me see something here.
All right. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am your host, Dick. Today we don't have our co-host, Tyler. He's working right now, but I am here with a very special guest, Mr. Tanner Cowens. Is it Cowens or Cohens?
Cowens, yeah, you got it right.
Okay, cool.
Actually. One of the few.
That's been bugging me for like a week, man. Like,
Yeah, one of the few that actually pronounces it right. So I appreciate that.
I try. You know, I mean, I have my last name's Tyner, and everybody's like Tenor.
Oh yeah.
I was at Arby's today, and they asked for my name. I gave them my last name because I guess everybody gives their first name now at places. I think it's weird to say to give them your name at a fast food place, but whatever. But they're like, give me your name, and I'm like, Tyner. So when I came to pick up my order, they thought I gave them my first name. They're like, oh, they must have said Tyler wrong. I'm like, nope, that's my last name. I'm old school. It's weird to say that, like, that's old school, but
Yeah.
whatever. So how are you today, man?
I'm good, dude. I just got up a little while ago and got some coffee and just
Yeah.
kind of hanging out. So
I tried to like be convenient for you. I'm like, noon should be around because there's a 3-hour difference. You're in Oregon, man.
I am. I'm all the way on the West Coast, so it's pretty cool.
All the way in the Midwest.
There's like water and cool things here. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple friends out there. I've always wanted to visit and hang out, but never.
It's pretty cool.
I never have the time, never have the money to get out there. It just is what it is, man.
Yeah.
I got friends out in Seattle and Redmond and Portland. Oh, they're all over out there, but yeah. So, okay. We're just going to get right into the nitty-gritty here. Rest, repose, man.
Yeah. It was weird, man. I don't know. What do you want to know specifically, I guess? Like,
well, we can backtrack a little bit. So I went up and saw you guys up in Berwyn, Chicago, or Berwyn, Illinois. Chicagoland, as they call it, I guess. I don't know. It's such a foreign because there's a part of Indiana that's near Chicago that they all call themselves the region. And we got a couple. I'm like 2 hours away from Chicago, so
wow.
So we got people that I work with, that I have worked with, that are all from the region, and I'm like, what region are you talking about? Oh, up north, the region.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't quite get it, and I just call it fake Chicago.
Is that like what is that, South Bend type area, or is
South
it
Bend, like Gary? I don't know if South Bend is like Gary though. Merrillville, all around there. Yeah. So this was your first U.S. tour?
Yeah. I mean, we did like some small tours before where we just did like up and down the West Coast. Like we did one
I know.
in like August.
Guys, come on out here. Come on.
Yeah, we did one in August with 100 Suns, and then we did like a winter headliner thing just up and down the West Coast because we had a show at Seosin. So it was like we were like, well, we're driving all the way down to LA. We might as well like book a tour around it.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was cool, man. Like we did, I think it was like I don't know, six shows in 7 days or something like that. And then the August one with 100 Suns, it was like 5 shows in 7 days. So it was cool.
Yeah, so touring, that's got to be a lot of fun. I've never had any desire, but I can see how it'd be fun. And, just to get away, play all your music and shit.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, meeting the people that support the bands are it's one of the coolest things that you get to do. Like,
oh yeah.
We got to meet all these people that like comment on videos and share posts and things like that, or cover songs, and
it goes both ways. Like, it's so cool to meet you guys. I've been a huge part of the local scene around here. Like, not saying like I've done much, but like I support the hell out of it. So like, and like there are bands in Indianapolis, like an hour away from me, that like when I can geek out about them. And so I can just be like, oh, dude, I've been listening to you guys for like a year. Like, I'm so glad you finally made it an hour up here. But yeah, no, it's cool. That was like a really surreal show for me in Berlin, because I didn't really get to meet anybody except for Austin. I got like real nervous, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I listened to one of your other podcasts, and you were saying that people were kind of coming in and out, and you're like,
I am one of those people. Like, if someone's doing a job or they're concentrating on something, I leave them alone. So I just
sure.
I left everybody be. I saw you hanging out outside, and I'm like, he's talking to people, cool. But because the week before that, I was on Jared and Austin's Dickie Dine show for the shitty tattoos. Yeah. And I was like, dude, Austin, I've been on your show twice. Check out my shitty tattoos that you showed to the internet. And he took a picture with one of them, put it on his Instagram story. I was pretty stoked about that. But like, it's so weird because, and this is actually going to end up being one of my topics today, but it's so weird. You guys are just regular guys, and like, but to us on the other side of on the comment end, you guys are rock stars. You guys are fucking rock stars.
It's so weird, dude. It's such a weird perception, because it's like we're just dudes who want to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like, and there wasn't a lot of that on tour. So I mean, there was
I can imagine
a lot of long drives and things like that. But yeah, I mean, like going to different towns and like meeting people and actually getting a chance to like connect with people on a person-to-person basis was like probably the second most fulfilling part of it all. The first, obviously, is like when people are singing back stuff that you've written. Like, that's the craziest, most surreal feeling. Even people are just doing like the whoa-whoas and stuff, and like in retrospect or whatever, like those sorts of songs where people are like singing the words about like my crushing anxiety I had for 10 years. Like, and people know every single word of the song about that. It's like, that's such a trip, and that's such a treat also, because it's just like it's amazing to feel like people give a shit. Like, it's wild. It's really, really cool. But then like on top of that, like talking to fans outside of the venue before the show or after the show, like I had some such cool experiences. Like, when we got over to like Michigan, like Kalamazoo, I talked to these dudes for like 2 hours before the show. Oh wow. Just like us three just talking about whatever, and it was just because we came from different backgrounds of life and like had different perspectives on all sorts of stuff. These two dudes had just finished like Ramadan, so I was like asking them all these questions about that, and kind of like just to learn about it, because I'm like, I don't know anything about, I don't really know a whole lot about like that walk of life. So it was really cool to like share these experiences and like draw parallels and like find all these really cool things that were just differences, but like also find common ground in the middle of all of it, like music lovers and traveling and playing in bands and tastes of music and all these different sorts of things. It was just like really, I don't know. It was one of the coolest things that I've gotten to do in a long, long time, was just connect with people on a person to person basis rather than just like through social media. So it was rad. I loved it.
Like I've some of my best conversations I've ever had are with like in terms of with rock stars per se. I sat and talked to Don Slater, the bass player for Battlecross, for an hour and a half just about Super Nintendo.
Oh, nice.
Super Nintendo and just like old school devices like from the 90s that like
cool.
are completely useless now, but it's just like, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? Like, I was just a wee lad in the 90s. I'm only 27 right now, but but it's just so cool. And you know, my friend Brandon, he's another host on one of the shows on our network. He's a big Metallica fan, so he follows like James Hetfield and all them. So he's read interviews and stuff, and it's like he's like, dude, if I'm gonna meet this is James Hetfield talking. If I'm gonna meet a fan, I don't want to talk about me. I want to meet them. I want to talk to them. And I'm like, dude, that is so cool. And that brings it back to the whole like everybody. We're all just people.
Yeah,
it's just
no, for real.
We're all just people, and you know we put other people on this pedestal, and but in the end, we're all just people.
Dude, yeah, I mean, like we went out with 100 Sons. You know, Corey was like he was like my hero in high school and college. Like I dressed up as that dude on Halloween when I was like 19. It was after like the Redeemer album came out. So I told him this story, and he's just like kind of laughing awkwardly. He's like, "Oh, all right," you know. but same thing, like just this person that I put up on a huge pedestal. Like this is a person that influenced me vocally for, you know, a good portion of my life. And it's like getting a chance to meet this dude was just like the most surreal thing. I'm like, oh shit, you know, it's Corey Brandon over there, you know, like freaking out. And now he's like, oh, here's my phone number. I'm like, yeah, you know. Just a good dude, you know, just a good dude in general. And like those guys. And then like I've been lucky enough to like kind of befriend some of the dudes in like Nothing More.
Yeah.
And
I've seen
and like
that.
those, yeah. And like those guys came, you know, they just got nominated for like three Grammy Awards. Like I don't think they won any, but like still.
That's really cool regardless.
But just like, but anytime that they come through Oregon or Portland or whatever, like I'll go up and see them and wind up on their bus or something and like hang out and talk with them about whatever. And it's just super cool because like they're just regular ass dudes.
I actually saw them a couple months ago with Papa Roach.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, I saw them in Portland.
Nice. Yeah, that was a fun show. Like that was the first time I've really heard Nothing More.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, like very entertaining.
Yeah, their live show is
very entertaining.
Their show is just I don't know, man. It's one of the best that I've ever seen live. Like between the Drumtron thing and then the Scorpion Tail, like all that crazy shit that they do. Like they are stepping it up and kind of raising the bar for pretty much every band that's out there right now. Like I don't know how they come up with that kind of stuff.
He's just insane. He's just running around. He's got such an awesome range. You know, I think I saw pictures that you posted from the Portland show, and he was Ultimate Warrior, which is my favorite wrestler. So.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. So yeah, they did the Ultimate Warrior. They did like, so the whole show was a Halloween show. So like all the bands dressed up. So like Hell or High Water, which is Brandon Soller from Atreyu. It's his new band that he's doing. So he's a front man for that. But they came out in like giant sumo suits, like the inflatable ones. And then, oh my gosh, what was the second band? I can't remember what the second band was, but another one came out as like the, like the Mexican wrestler Nacho Libre
like
type things. Yeah, those guys. And then Palisades didn't dress up because they had like a label exec looking at them, so they were kind of trying to be serious.
Gotcha.
But then Nothing More pops up, and of course, you know, they got Stone Cold Steve Austin, Ultimate Warrior. Daniel was Randy Savage, and then Mark was he was like the Irish dude with the kilt, not Sheamus, but
oh wow,
crap, he's an older one.
Roddy Piper?
Yes. Yeah, Roddy. Yeah. So those guys. So there's like videos of them on the street where they were like doing like a pose off or like trying to challenge each other and like doing like the smack talk thing before the fight or whatever.
Awesome.
But like after the show, they go back to the green room, and they're like, yeah, let's go across because like in the Crystal Ballroom, McMillan's Crystal Ballroom in Portland, there's like the green rooms behind, like backstage, like under the ground, like on the second level, and then across the hall from the green rooms, there's like a dance club, nightclub type thing. So they're like, let's go over to the club. We're like, all right, sure. So we go over there. And like then they walk in like they own the place, and like they like ask people to like clear out a circle in the dance floor, and then they just had a pose off for like 5 minutes, and then they just left. So it was like the most random thing, but it was so damn funny. And then so they're like, oh yeah, let's just go back there. And so we had like some beers there in the green room and just like hung out. And then I stole an avocado and left, but but it's good dudes, like just good wholesome dudes. And like I think the time before that, like we took them to. So it was like Mark, Dan, and then their merch guy Brian, and then somebody else came with us. But like we took him to Chopsticks in Portland. It's like this crappy, like divey, like way too well lit type of like karaoke bar after the show, and like they were trying to do like Gangster's Paradise and like all these just ridiculous songs and like Regulators with Warren G. Like just it was god awful, but it was so fun. And since then we've maintained contact and stuff. And Ironically, Daniel was going to come up to the show at Corpus Christi, which is tonight, and I'm not going to be there, so he's going to be confused. But yeah, good dudes.
Going back to Thousand Sons, like Corey, that's his name, right? I have such a cool parallel with that because, and it's actually from a band in the Portland area. Years ago, I started listening to this band called Across the Sun.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
And I just it was just one of those things where I was just like always on their social media, like always commenting, being fanboy number one.
Back in the MySpace days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, I remember they were huge.
Oh hell yeah. And then Brandon, their vocalist, he ended up being a huge influence on my own vocals because he had that like very Killswitch engagey yet Lamb of God type feel.
Yeah.
Which is two of my favorite bands, of course, and it's just
Across the Sun, man.
Yeah,
forgot about them.
I'm gonna do a little gloating here. I am actually, as far as I know, the only person on Earth with an Across the Sun tattoo.
No shit.
Yes.
Dang. That's wild, dude. Yeah, there's bands that came out of the woodwork back in like the early 2000s. Like there was a band from Seattle called From Atheny.
Okay.
And those guys were I thought they were just like the biggest band ever. Back when I was like 18, and like had them come down and do a show at my college back in the day, and like we paid them really well. They were like super stoked about it. Like it was the most they'd ever done, and those guys kind of, and then so the guitar player Jacob is now in Into the Flood.
Okay.
Out of Seattle. So same dude. So I've known that guy for like 12 years. And then this other band from Seattle was called they were called Seven Horns, Seven Eyes. And they were like an apocalyptic Christian metal band that was like everything was kind of based off of like all the Book of Revelations and whatever.
Okay.
So like all this crazy, I don't know. But they changed my entire perception of like music and metal and all these different sorts of things growing up. And like right before we left for tour, I got to meet the guitar player at Jared's house, and I was like, "Oh, it's Aaron! Oh my god!" I'm just like freaking out, and I didn't get a chance to tell him, like, dude, like that music changed my entire outlook on music. So
that's how Across the Sun was with me.
Yeah,
and
I mean, first guitar solo I ever learned was from Seven Horns, Seven Eyes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
I got my buddy Ryan Strain, who was also in that area. He says Seven Horns, Seven Eyes is amazing.
Yeah, dude, they're so good.
That's a cool thing about doing this live stream. I can see a chat feed and interact with the crowd. It's fun.
Oh yeah. See, can I see this? Can I see the? Oh, I can. Yeah. Seattle represent. Yeah.
But yeah,
so cool.
No, Across the Sun, when they did a full U.S. tour after they got signed to Metal Blade and released their full length album Before the Night Takes Us. So they finally came to my neck of the woods, and it was in Bloomington, Indiana, Indiana State University, Indiana University. There's like 3 Indiana universities here. It's so weird. But, and so I'm just sitting out on a bench, like outside. I've been like, I too had the singer's number like you did, and
Yeah.
he gave it to me on over the social media so he could contact me when he got in town. And
Yeah.
so I'm just chilling outside. Hadn't even said anything to them. I know they're there. I'm letting them unload and do their thing. And out of nowhere, here comes Brandon. He was on crutches at the time.
Oh,
he had hurt his ankle or something like a couple nights before on stage. And he just comes hobbling over. He's like, "Hey, man." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, you recognize me?" And this was like...
Dude, that's the coolest.
I was I think 20, 21 at the time. I was 20, yeah. And so I'm just a kid. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's talking to me for real.
It's super trippy, right? It's
Yeah.
super weird. Like my old band, Dry Season, back in like 2009 or 10. We went to Klamath Falls, Oregon, which is like the middle of nowhere, and we played in literally a cow pasture with bales of hay as like the barricades. With Brian Welch from Korn.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it's like, and same thing. Like he had just quit Korn. He was doing his own solo project thing, and he was doing that. I think he was going out as just Brian Head Welch before he did like the what's it called? I can't remember the name of it right now. Love and Death.
Yeah.
So, but like I, wound up talking to that dude for like an hour, and he's just super down to earth, super chill guy.
Man, that guy just pops up because he's popped up here in Lafayette like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years, just in random spots. Like we have a music store here, and then he was at this frozen yogurt place. Like I have friends that are just like, dude, Brian Welch is here, like, from Korn. I'm like, what?
Dude, like oh my gosh. So the winter tour we did. So we were playing at this place called The Church in Las Vegas. And one of the opening bands, and I can't remember their name for the life of me now, and I feel bad for that, but the bass player was like the niece of Corey Taylor. So we load in, we sound check, and then we go check in at the hotel, and like we get a message from the home team like, freaking Corey Taylor's here. Like, you guys got to get down here. So like we like tried to hop in an Uber and like speed back as fast as we can. By the time we got there, he was gone. But it was just damn it. Would have been so cool to like just get either, I don't know, to talk to that dude or just like get roasted by him until how much I suck. But
some of my favorite books are by him. Like,
dude, he's great, man. He's an intelligent guy.
Yes.
Who knows his stuff. So
I love that it became a meme that he was reacting to things, and then he reacted to himself reacting to things.
Oh, really?
He's like, I have a mouth and I use it.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, he's pretty straightforward, so I could definitely like that guy. I admire him for his gusto, I guess you could call it, but yeah.
So I've had this theory for a while about like the inner workings of Rest Repose. Is it the Fluffy Dines show?
No. I mean,
it's more of a collaborative.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been really collaborative as far as I know. I mean, like Jared and Fluff are the main songwriters for sure. Tony interjects his parts when he has the opportunity to, and when it fits. And then what they would do is they would send me a track that I would record here at my house. Yeah, and then I'd send it back like either like a rough mix demo version of whatever, and usually within a couple of days. Or when we did the record, I would record all the vocals and then bring a hard drive that had all the vocal stems, and then Fluff would take those and mix them. So it just kind of depended on that. But like, as far as like who runs a lot of like the business side of things, it was Fluff is the kind of the guy for the endorsements. Okay. Tony was kind of the guy that handled like all the booking and management type stuff. So that's kind of how that whole thing operated. Jared is kind of the main attraction because he's got the most followers on YouTube and stuff. So it's like a lot of people are there to see him, which is great. That helps the band for sure. And
he definitely puts on the show.
Yeah. Totally.
I was right on the stage right in front of him when I saw you guys, and I was like, shit.
Yeah. No, man, he's a performer and he's a hell of a guitar player. Yes. And I'm multi-instrumentalist and he's great. So So he's definitely the guy that's got like the most songwriting ability and like the most chops as far as like technicality and everything else goes. So like he's definitely the dude who kind of drives the creative juices, I think, because he can just turn out songs like nobody's business. Like we finished the record, and I think within like a month, he had already sent like 7 other ideas over. It's just like, damn, dude.
Yeah, no
so,
kidding.
And then Fluff kind of did the same thing. Like he'd send me all sorts of different things too, and like we'd kind of pick and choose like what I could write to easiest, so that we had some material to push to producers and management and labels and things like that.
Okay.
So like even right now, as it stands, like we have like a 5-song demo version of what will eventually be, they have. Okay, speaking in past tense, we had a 5-song demo done that we sent out to a management company to kind of shop labels and see if we can get some label support for recording, going to a studio and producing and that kind of thing. So I don't know how that's going to work out from this point on, because I don't really want my words and lyrics and vocal melodies used, but we'll see what happens.
It's such a weird, because okay, so you are the second singer.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
and I've been in those shoes before. My last band. How weird is that to step into somebody else's shoes and sing their words, sing their melodies?
It's not too weird. I mean, like Vince's stuff for like, because like live we only did Generator and Sleep City.
Yeah.
So everything else was I wrote on my own. I think like there's a big misconception that like songs like Retrospect, like the only words that I kept in that song
right?
was the words Retrospect. Yeah. But like I took the entire thing and kind of changed all the words and lyrics and melodies to kind of fit something that I could kind of drive home a little bit more. I think Oh Gravity had, like I borrowed some of the some of the melodies that he chose.
Okay.
But then put my own words to it and kind of changed the whole lyrical structure of the song and that sort of a thing. So there wasn't really a whole lot of like adapting things. Like on my YouTube channel I had done Generator and Sleep City covers.
Yes.
And kind of threw my own spin on them. But as far as like singing them live, like it's not weird. And I've actually met Vince like a handful of times and like hung out with him, and he's a cool dude. Yeah. And he's got, there's no hard feelings or anything like that. He handles it really well.
That's good.
And he was like super, like I ran into him at Jared's house before we left, and he was like super stoked for us and to do the tour. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be great. 10 days later, I'm getting on a flight. But yeah, that but for the most part, like everything else that's written, like I dug deep on a lot of the stuff lyrically on the self-titled record. At Retrospect is all about, crushing anxiety and kind of like what happens before an anxiety attack comes on. Okay. Basically looking back at things that just kind of plague me as a person.
Yeah.
And then like Fathoms was a near-death experience on a river. was what that song was. So it's all kind of personified by this whole thing that's what's the word I'm looking for here? It's personified as like a entity like pulling you down into the deep. Okay. Basically we flipped our rafts. I got tangled in a bunch of ropes and it almost got like drawn and quartered and choked to death underwater and then came out of it. So that's Fathoms.
Never would have guessed. Never would have thought.
Yeah. No, it's a weird one for sure. Wow, what else? Polaris. That song is actually about like so when I was first introduced to Repose way back in 2016, they were wanting me to quit my other band that I had here in Eugene called Fallen Theory.
Yeah.
And basically, like our record was being mixed at the time, so like I didn't want to.
I bought that the other day, by the way, on
Shoot
to Be Choke. Awesome.
Yeah,
CD.
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, like, so the whole thing was about like, I don't try to convince me to join this band or quit this other band. So that's the whole song. It was kind of like this back and forth thing about that. Gosh, let's see. The Cycle is
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean that song is literally about the cycle of life and kind of like this and like the same recurring pattern that I've noticed, where it's like I get to a point and then like just shit gets piled on, and I can feel myself kind of dragging back towards like old habits or whatever. Like that's kind of how that song is, and like the frustration that comes with it. Oh Gravity. I mean, that song's like, Oh Gravity is like, how I can feel like something good is on the horizon.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Hey, no. I think something good is on the horizon, because that song you released, So Much More. Holy shit.
That was a rejected song, by the way.
It was a rejected song.
Yeah, it was one that I brought to the table like about 3 months ago, and it got thrown into the cutting room floor, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do something else." So I just used it. I was like, "All right, well, I guess I'll put it out then," because I did all the instrumentation on it, and then I had like scratch vocals before we left, and then I came back and kind of redid them.
How many of those? Because some of those lyrics are kind of, they seem a little targeted.
They're not actually.
Okay.
What's funny about it was
but
I think with the timing of it all, like it can definitely be taken that way, and it's not. Like it was more other shit that was going on in my life at the time.
Okay.
And kind of I was kind of calling out the nature of other people that had kind of, I don't know, just treated other people like shit, and I was kind of tired of it. So ironically, like that song, I mean, it was the only thing that I really had ready. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to retract the vocals. And so I retracked the vocals the day after I got home, which was 2 days after losing my voice. But yeah, that a lot of people were like, "Oh, is this a diss track?" I'm like, "No, shit. Okay, no, it's not." But I think that a lot of people kind of interpreted it that way.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, because it is ironically like, because the lyrics are like "lock me in my room," which I had just been like sent to a hotel. I'm like, so I can definitely draw the parallels there, but it wasn't intentionally like this is a diss track. So
it happens.
No, it wasn't anything like that. But I can see how it could be taken that way, for sure.
So have you had any contact with any of them since leaving?
Yeah, I talked to Jared a little bit.
Okay.
And I just kind of expressed my frustration, and he was like, I advocated to keep you on this thing, and the same way I did for Vince, but he got outvoted. So I don't know, man. I haven't heard from anyone else, which has kind of been surprising. Nothing aside from like, I hope you got on the plane and got home. So, I mean, it was kind of I don't know. The statement in general kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe I should address that, actually, because I think that there's been a lot of misconceptions drawn from that statement.
Yeah. It was very business.
Well, one of the things was like, I'm looking at the statement right now, and it was like, it wasn't based on one night, week, month, etc. It was a culmination of things over the past year that came to a head on the road. What I don't understand about that, because I've asked them to clarify, because over the past year, like, I've been collaborative. We've always been in communication. Yeah. We have a group chat that's like always going. And aside from turning tracks back within a couple of days of receiving them, I've helped with like the graphic design stuff, the social media marketing, the artwork, load in, load out, all those sorts of things. Like, when we play shows, like, I'm not the singer that like sits in the van and like chills out. Like, I actually bust my ass to help people set up, and I was helping Tony with the light tech stuff and like setting up lights and setting up amps. And like, there was times where like I'd load in a crap ton of gear, like that was never an issue with that. And I'd always bring business ideas to the table, merch designs, things like that. Like anything that I could contribute, I would do. So, but coming to a head on the road, I wasn't really sure what that means, because there wasn't, from what I understood, there wasn't any kind of tensions. So I don't really know what that means.
Okay.
The other part of it too was like, There were issues with his smoking and drinking hurting his voice, overall lack of care for his instrument. So I have been a smoker for 12 years, on and off. I've probably quit a dozen times. And unfortunately, like for me, it's always been a vice. So like when I'm super stressed out, like that's when I usually break down and go back to it. And so that part, before we left for tour, I went through kind of like a big heartbreak type thing where I was just like stressed out, freaking out, because it's like it's if you've ever been in a relationship where you guys break up and then you're just like down in the dumps for a long time.
Yeah.
it was kind of like that. But then you're gone for 40 days, and there's nothing you can do because you're halfway across the country.
Yeah, and on top of that, long roads, you're just left alone with your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that. And then the first couple days, like we had drives that were I think the first one took about 15 hours to go from Tacoma to Salt Lake City.
Oh wow.
We stopped halfway at like 4 a.m, and we were up by like 9. We had to drive like another 6 hours or something like that. I can't remember how exactly. We had a late start, so I got about 4 hours of sleep the night that I went up to Jared's. He was throwing a party for himself, so I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. I was in bed by 5, up by 9 because the band was supposed to be there at 10, and we were supposed to get an early start on the road. We didn't leave till like 2. Then we drove for I think 9 or 10 hours, and with stops and things like that, we got into a hotel at 4 a.m. Out of there by 9. 10, something like that, and then get to the venue. And so there's all that. So going into the first show, exhausted. plus we're in like a new climate entirely, which according to my vocal teacher, who I visited for about a month before going on the road, she's like, climate change is going to be huge. Rest is a priority. These are two things that I didn't get any of. So then we get into the show, first show of the tour. I'm allergic to the fog machine crap. So like,
oh yeah,
that automatically affects me. So add that in on top of everything else. Tried my best to stay hydrated the whole way. But the first show was like, something feels wrong. Like something's wrong with my voice. Like I'm having a really hard time doing this. And so like the first show was kind of rough, and that was kind of just to be expected. Like first time on the road first time out and playing. I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a little bit rough, but I'm going to give it my all. Did that. And then I think we had like a 10-hour drive or an 8-hour drive the next day, and then a 10-hour drive. So again, lack of sleep and things like that. So those things all kind of affected like just overall endurance. And at one point, Jared was even like, well, we need to sleep more because we're all going to get burned out if we keep this up. And it's like, we knew after the first week, we'd have like the drives would be like 4 hours or less, not a problem at all. But so that was one part of it. So just the physical exhaustion of it all, the first week or so. And when I brought that up, it was just kind of like, man up, it's tour. Suck it up, dude. And that's fair enough. But it's like when you actually have to sing and sing well, that part's hard. So, yes. But like my overall vocal care was like a minimum of like 60 ounces of water a day. I would drink about anywhere from 3 to 6 cups of tea. I had lozenges. I had vocal stuff that was like specifically made for singers. Did that all day long. I would stay quiet in the van. I'd usually lay down and like just listen to music and kind of zone out and try to just be quiet. And the part that in the statement that has been driving me insane is the word drinking, because there is a big misconception that I was like drunk or that I was
at the show in Chicago. Like I didn't see a drink in your hand the whole time.
Yeah.
You were just chilling, hanging out.
There was a guy that like at like 4 or 5 o'clock, it was like right before or it was right after VIP. This dude was like, "Can I buy you a beer?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man." I sat there and I talked to him for about a half an hour. And that was the first one I'd had the entire tour. And then the second one I had on a day off in Lincoln, Illinois at a bowling alley. And I went to bed at like 10:30. And the next one I think was in like Kalamazoo because I wanted to try something local from Michigan. So I was like, all right, whatever, try this. And because I'm from a beer town, so it's like I like to try different local brews. Because we have like Ninkasi, we have Hop Valley, we've got Oakshire. We've got Sam Bonds. We have all these different breweries out here where I live.
You're really talking to me right now because like we have another show on this network called Brews with Dudes where we try craft beer, just whatever we can. It's usually it started out the show. Each person that was guesting that day would bring in a beer that no one else had that they hadn't even had, and we would just all drink it one by one and talk about it, and then talk about whatever, and then go on the next beer.
Sure.
So I've been doing my craft beer journey for about a year now, and it's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of awesome breweries here in Indiana, like 450 North Brewing Company and Three Floyds. Three Floyds being the much bigger one. If you ever have something called Zombie Dust or Alpha King, maybe Gumball Head, I definitely recommend.
I'll have to try it and see if I can find them. Yeah, it sounds awesome. But like, so there's three.
Yeah.
Two before a show, one before two different shows. The other three were during loadout. So 6 beers in 11 days, but the term drinking implies that I was like drunk or I was an alcoholic or abusing it or something like that. And the reality is like I would drink maybe like 4 hours before we had to play, and the rest of the time was water and tea. I had a steam inhaler, like I had all sorts of shit that I would do to take care of my voice. my one thing that I didn't stop doing was smoking because I'm addicted. Like, let's be honest. And it's a shitty habit. Like it's a fucking awful habit to have. And yeah, that's something that I did not cut. Everything else I would do very consciously and try to make sure that I wasn't doing things that would harm my voice. Like I'd speak at low volumes, or I'd go someplace quiet if somebody wanted to talk, or so I'm not yelling over music or anything like that. So to kind of keep that all in shape. But like that misconception's been driving around, and like and I made the mistake of like looking on like in the comments section of things on different social media. And it's like, yeah, it's not cool when your singer shows up to a show drunk. I'm like, what the fuck? No, dude. Like and then there's other people that are like, I bought that guy a beer. Oh, actually, yeah, the dude that bought me a beer in Berwyn. He's like, oh no, or I think it was him, or maybe he said Salt Lake, which is impossible because there was no alcohol allowed there. Whatever.
Oh no, this is my fault.
Yeah, it's like this is super weird shit. So I'm like, no, there was never like an alcohol problem for anyone on tour. We're not a party band. Like we take this stuff very seriously. So, but it was weird to see these comments like, yeah, he was let go due to substance abuse issues. And I'm like, the fuck? Substance abuse issues? Are you kidding me? It's like, and there's people like, yeah, I think he was on pills. I'm like, what is this? Yeah,
the internet's a funny place.
It is super weird, man. And like, so I'm like trying to drive these misconceptions down into the dirt because I'm like, yo, I'm not an alcoholic. Like, here's the 6 beers I had and when. So and physiologically, yes, like physiologically, alcohol can affect your voice. It can dry out your vocal cords and those sorts of things. But it's like that's if you're not hydrating, if you're not doing anything to combat the effects of alcohol, or you're drinking excessively. Like absolutely, you will damage your voice at some point in time. But like having 4 or 5 hours before showtime, or 4 hours before I have to warm up,
that's not going to do anything.
While hydrating and breathing steam and doing lozenges and warming up for 20 minutes and doing all these different things to make sure that I'm going to be prime on stage. That's something else. So it's debatable whether or not that was actually a factor at all. But we got to Pontiac, Michigan, and it was after a day off, and I woke up and I had no voice. Yeah. This is after a rest day of being quiet.
Oh, I lost you.
Suddenly I've got. Oh, you got me?
Yep, I got you
back. so after a day off of being quiet and resting my voice and just being silent most of the day, like I went for a swim at the hotel, like just did nothing besides just shut up basically. And the next morning I woke up and had no voice. I'm like, oh God, what's going on? And what was weird about it was like I have friends who live in Detroit that I hadn't seen for like 8 years, like people that I grew up with. And so I'm like, I have to do the show. I've got to do it. Like these guys live here. Like I haven't seen these guys in almost a decade. Got to do it. So I was able to kind of nurse my voice up to about 60%. enough to be able to do the show. I had to sing a lot of stuff like an octave lower than I normally do. So I do the show, and afterwards I went down to the green room and just started immediately like gargling salt water and drinking like ginger ale and those sorts of things to kind of soothe my voice. And the next day my voice was back. I was like, oh, sweet. So I get up in the morning and I'm like, good morning, everyone. Like, where is everybody? They're late to the van call. And
and everybody's like, hey, bye.
Yep, sort of.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
like, yeah, sort of. So they get out there and like, here's the plan. Like, we're going to put you in a hotel so you can rest your voice. You're not going to play the show tonight. We're going to have the other guys from the other bands come and fill in, and we'll make it work. So you get a rest day. I was like, well, my voice is back. Like, well, no, we want you to rest today. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not happy about it because I wasn't part of that decision, but what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, for the betterment of the band and for the longevity of the tour, like, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and comply, I guess, you know? And so I do. And so I spent the day just kind of like pacing around my hotel, gargling salt water, doing all the different tricks that I'd learned about vocal care. Like, there's one that's like you chew aspirin and like kind of inhale so that it goes down your trachea and like sits on your vocal cords, and it reduces the swelling, helps you kind of heal faster.
That's interesting.
So then I started looking up like local hospitals, and I found an urgent care about a mile away, like University Medical Urgent Care, I think, in like outside of Cleveland, like two or 3 miles from the airport. So I walked down there, and the doctor like puts a camera up my nose and down my throat because I'm like, I think I've got laryngitis or I'm trying to get over it. And he's like, well, let's take a look. And because I was going to be like, can I get a steroid shot or something so that I can just get back on my feet and do this? Because we've got like, you know, we have like 28 more dates to do.
Wow.
And so he goes, well, you don't have laryngitis. I'm like, oh, I don't. He's like, no. Or excuse me, I had a camera down my throat. So I'm like, and he's like, no, it looks like you've got like, he goes like, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Oregon. He's like, do you have allergies? I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, where like, what kind of allergies? I was like, well, I'm from the Willamette Valley, where we have like the most grass fields, like in the entire nation. So like, my allergies are severe. He's like, are you still taking allergy medication? It's like, well, no. Once we left Oregon, I didn't think I'd need it because we were at different places. Didn't think that I would need any to take that stuff anymore because the same allergens weren't there, or histamines or whatever you want to call them. But so he's like, well, okay, well, yeah, you're probably good there. So that was a good call. And he's like, well, but I can see that you've got a lot of drainage in your sinuses and down your throat and things like that. So it looks like you just had the common cold. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, you probably had it for about a week or so. It usually takes about a week to really get it out of your system. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's good to know. At least it's just that, and it's not like something that's going to be affecting me for the rest of the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, it's like 12:30 or something like that, and I know the show's over. The venue is like 10 miles away, so I'm like, yo, guys, like, what's your ETA? You guys coming back? And they give me this message. It's like the tour's not going how we want it to go. We don't feel like you're taking care of your voice, and we decided to finish the tour without you. The vibe was better tonight with the fill-ins and all this sort of stuff. Like, there's a car coming for you at 9 a.m. You're hopping on a flight home. And I'm like, yo, you guys need to call me right now so I can. And like they're like, no, we've already talked it over. We made our decision, and I was like, no, this is, you guys need to call me. Like, yeah, I didn't quit smoking, but I haven't since yesterday at like 3. I quit cold turkey in Pontiac at like 3 p.m. I was like, I'm done. Last one. I'm over it. And my voice came back the next day, right?
Yeah.
And then I do the thing with the doctor and all this sort of stuff. And but I get this message, this big message, and I'm like, yo, you guys need to call me. So I'm like calling them on the phone, like, somebody pick up the phone. No one does. And I was like, I'm seriously fine. Like, we can do this. It's just the common cold. But they wouldn't respond or pick up the phone. So didn't get a chance to talk to anybody. And instead it was like, if you don't get on the flight, you have to reimburse us or anything. Like, I don't have money for that shit. So I guess I'm getting on a flight.
Shit.
So I did. I got home. like 2 a.m. They were nice enough to like get me a ticket and some money to like get an Uber from Seattle to Puyallup, and then enough gas money to like drive home 4 hours south. And so I mean, they took care of me in that regard. But unfortunately, it's like if I had just had a day, like an extra day, maybe 2 of vocal rest and hydrating, I would have been back to 100%. So it's kind of a bummer, man. Like it's kind of a bummer to. I think that in general, like the decision was just kind of made in haste, and it was kind of uninformed because
I think so too. Yeah.
But you know, they're doing a good job. Tony stepped up. he's doing well on vocals, and then of course, like, you know, Lee's hopping in there, and so is Brian from the home team, and like and Austin's coming up and doing certain parts too. So it's like they're covering it well. Yeah. And it sucks because it's like, the internet is such a toxic fucking place, man. Because you go and you read the comments, like, he sucked, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I was sick. Leave me alone. You know, there's that, and but I'm trying to just take it on the chin and call it a day and just move the fuck on, because there's nothing else that I'm able to do with it.
And that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, it sucks, and it sucks, and it hurts, and because like this was my dream to go and do this. Mm-hmm. And it got cut short due to a common cold. But the misconception that's or not the misconception, but like the statement made it sound like I was doing nothing to care for my voice, which isn't really the case. You know, and I'm not going to trash those guys or anything like that. Like, Jared's been one of the only people that reached out to me. So like, I know that dude's good. Like, and he's a more humble person than you would ever expect from a dude who's got that much like star power or whatever, you know. But like, he's a good dude with a good heart, and he's incredibly gracious and humble. Like, the rest of the guys I haven't heard from, aside from, you know, comments on Twitter and social media that just kind of drives the nails in. So I don't really know.
Yeah, all I've seen is like people, where's Tanner? And I'll see Fluff. He's not with us anymore. Like, and I'm like, man, I'm really glad I got to see you on tour.
Thanks, man.
Because you know, like,
that was a fun show.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it kind of sucked for me because so I had my girlfriend right in front of me, or right beside me, right in front of me, and then during your set, that's when the pits started, and I'm like, oh shit. So. It's always weird that the pit starts in like Sleep City. I'm like, that's the softest song. Okay, sure. I know, right? It is odd, but no. So my blocking arm. So I'm playing boyfriend now. You know, blocking the pit blocking my girlfriend from the pit, and my blocking arm. The day before, I had just got a half sleeve done, so it's like just really tender, and I'm like, this is gonna suck. So I'm like trying to block people from bashing into me, bashing into her with like a completely fresh ink arm. Ouch. Yeah. Damn. But no, that was a really great show. It was really great to see Fluff and Jared and you and Tony and what is the drummer's Chris, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's fresh to me, so I'm like, that guy. And you know, it was really cool seeing him all over the show beforehand, because like seeing him photograph everything, and I'm just sitting here like watching. I'm like, that looks like the new drummer. And of course, Miranda, my girlfriend, she's like, hey, he's just been hanging out. What the hell? So climb up on stage, you know.
Hey, he does all the photography stuff for the home team, and so they like hire him to do that kind of thing, and it's pretty cool. And he's an audio dude too. Like, nice. he works at El Corazon in Seattle, like doing sound or whatever. Okay. And so like he kind of figured out like the whole in-ear system and how we could run that with the lights and everything else. So he's really intuitive with that. So him and Fluff, it's combined. Like, they just got their shit down, which is really, really cool. So
being a fan of Fluff, like that's really helped me in my journey in terms of like recording, because I've gotten a ton of gear and stuff like from his demos and whatnot. I got the SE V7 right down here too, from the demo you guys did. I loved it. So
I love this mic, man. It sounds good. I mean, it's what I'm using for the podcast. And it sounds pretty legit. So no compressors or anything. Like, this is just going in. This is a dry signal. Like, there's nothing going into this, just straight into my board. So nice. Sounds pretty rad. I love this thing.
But yeah, it was really great to finally see you guys play live, and because last year when the self-titled album came out, that album hit me, and it just kept playing all year. It's still playing today. Like,
nice.
I think I said it on one of the previous shows, but it was my number one from last year. A close second was Trivium, Sin in the Sentence.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, God damn, this album is so good. Because I kind of went on like a journey of like once again self-finding, because I broke up with a girlfriend, and in the hopes of I'm going to focus on myself this year, focus on music, and more so the recording side of music, and that led me to my podcast and all that instead of music. But no, so listening to all those songs and just the way your melodies and harmonies like just blended so well with the music, and it just there's hardly any songs on that album that don't give me some kind of chills at some point.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I did something right then.
Yeah. That's my goal. Okay, so when I write music, when I wrote music, my goal was always to make music that moved people emotionally in some way. And I think if music can do that to me, that means the world to me. So if I could do that for somebody, that would mean the world to me too.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, man. Like the stuff that I think it was Aaron Lewis from Stained was kind of like, I'm going to write about all this negative shit so that other people can relate to it and know that they're not alone. I guess it was kind of like the same idea, kind of like that a positive negative or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like people can relate to the different stuff. And like I took it a step further, even more with this. I did this thing called Songs and Scars on Tumblr. And basically,
I wanted to look into that. I never got around to it.
Yeah, it's a catalog of like all my lyrics, and then from every band I've been in, plus like some solo project stuff and other random stuff that like never really kind of saw the light of day. But it's kind of multimedia, whatever. But it goes through like a biography of each band and kind of like the stuff that happened during the bands.
Okay.
And then each song has like the backgrounds of what the songs are about. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of tie a little bit deeper to it, so people can kind of relate to it a little bit more. And which normally, like, I think a lot of bands kind of purposely will choose to like not put it all out there, like, and let people kind of like interpret it for themselves. But I was just kind of like, yeah, screw it. Like, I'm just going to tell the real story behind it, because for me, it helped me process all the shit that I'd gone through growing up. So, but the cool thing is like there's live videos, there's like recordings, like SoundCloud links, there's Spotify links, there's YouTube stuff, there's all sorts of things that kind of embedded in it. So it's like kind of this neat little experience. But like a few people have read it and been like, that was really cool. Like I actually relate to that, and kind of took it a little bit further. And it's like, if that meant something to somebody, even one person, then mission accomplished. Like, cool. Mm-hmm. But I love that kind of thing, man. I love doing that sort of stuff with people. And but yeah, I mean, the goal of music for me is to create art and not let it be hollow. You know what I mean? Like there's so much stuff, there's so much shit out there now on the radio that's just, I don't know. It's not real. It's not art. Cold. It's just kind of, it's just product, I guess you could say.
You're speaking to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, and I just don't see the point in it. It's like it's like buying a car that doesn't get you anywhere. You know, you can roll it down a hill and you're like, look, I have a car, but it's nothing. So like, as far as like creating art, that's kind of a different perspective, I think. And I don't know if those goals really aligned with the rest of the guys, because I wanted to create art and I think were more interested in selling a product, which can be one and the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the cool thing about the vocalist end is like you are the human connection. Like you are what's going to connect to the people. The most. Yeah. Well, I mean, you still are, because you're still a vocalist. You still write. You're gonna go forward. I know you are.
I'm gonna try to. Yeah.
And so like you are the human aspect of the music. So what they can create product all they want. Whoever can create product all they want. People are going to latch on to what you're doing on an emotional level in whatever way. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, that's true. Curious to see what happens going forward, because I don't know, man. Like there's we did these 5-song demos.
Yeah.
That we shopped out to labels, and I don't know from a business perspective if that gains any traction. I don't know how that's going to pan out when they're like, well, we don't have that vocalist anymore. We don't have the person that wrote these songs anymore. So I don't know how that's going to pan out for them as a business decision. I don't see how that's conducive, but that's going to be an interesting thing to follow, I guess. But
I had a similar conundrum in my last band. So I came in, I replaced their first singer who they had been with for years. They had I think 2 full-length CDs with them, and they wanted me to learn at least a few of those songs so we could play them and then write all new. And I guess at some point he had a problem with, he's like, well, if you're going to be using those songs, you can't use my lyrics, and he can't sing those. And the head honcho of the band per se is he was like, no, when you write for this band, that those lyrics are property of the band. And I was like, I'm just here. I'm just singing.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. The thing is like I could easily take the songs that I wrote and write new music to it.
Yeah.
And put them out myself, or because the thing is like they're not released. So like all the stuff that's on the self-titled record, like I've basically lost that. Lost those songs. The stuff that hasn't hit the airwaves or any of the streaming services, like those are still unreleased. So I don't know if I can use those or not. There was never anything signed that was like, once you write for us, then those are ours. I don't think we ever had any kind of agreement like that. So I don't know if that's going to be. I hope it's not going to be an issue. I think that if they want to write different stuff, they absolutely can. I want to keep my songs. I want to keep the words that I write for my own stuff too.
They're personal for you, like that's your heart and soul right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's even now watching. It's like seeing the live clips of stuff where, there's Tony doing vocals, and there's Lee, and there's Brian, and there's Austin going on stage. Because those songs are so deeply personal to me, it's kind of like watching like 4 dudes fuck your wife in front of like an entire city block. You know what I mean? It's just like,
that's one way to put it.
It hurts, man. It hurts.
Yeah.
Because like there's, it's such a downer. So I try not to I had to like unfollow all the hashtags and stuff, like just because it's just like, God damn it, man. I don't want to see that. But that's the best way I can put it, I guess. It's like watching a bunch of dudes bang your wife. It's just
such a way with words.
Yeah,
really sorry. Know how to paint a picture.
There's the inner lyricist poet part of me that just comes out. But yeah, I mean, it's I wish them luck, and I'm not going to talk bad on them.
No,
they're good people. I don't know. I mean, seeing the comments and things from fans and the misconceptions that were kind of drawn out of that statement has kind of been the battle while I'm home. Was it's like, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a drug problem. I've smoked weed like maybe 5 times my entire life. I've never been hooked on hard substances. And it's like, even then, that was sort of like my early 20s, and I'm a 30-year-old man. So it's like, am I allowed to have an adult beverage? Yeah. Especially when I'm being responsible with it. Smoking, like, that's a stupid thing. It never affected me before. But in conjunction with fatigue, climate change, brutal heat or dryness or these different things, no matter like how much I hydrate, like those factors eventually pile up, and it's like, and then you add smoking on top of it, and it's like, it's just one thing that doesn't help, doesn't get you anywhere over that hump, but that's just, my one stupid vice and the one thing that I did that I did wrong, and then I own that mistake every time that people are like, "Oh, you dumbass, drunk, fucking yeah." It's crazy. There was even a dude that was like, the comments are gone now, but it was on the Instagram thing. It was like, "I met that guy and he was drunk and it was disgusting and he was slurring his words and falling over." I'm like, who the hell did you talk to, man?
When?
And I wrote him back and I said the same thing I said to you. I was like, I had 6 beers in like 11 days. You know, like if you think you met me, you didn't. I think he was saying it was in Michigan somewhere. Like Pontiac, I didn't talk to anybody because I couldn't, because I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was trying to save my voice for the show. And Kalamazoo, I went for a walk and I was talking to dudes outside for 2 hours. So I don't know. It was really, really odd, but I guess I came across as like a stuck-up dickhead, and because
that's
I was
totally what I'm getting right now. I mean,
yeah, I'm a huge asshole, man. Yeah, I don't know. It was, and that was really disheartening. But I wrote him back, and because I stay out of the comments as much as I can, unless I'm just like, come on, that's ridiculous. So I wrote him. I was like, if I offended you, man, like I'm really sorry. Like feel free to send me a message and we can talk it through. But I don't recall ever meeting you, and I was definitely never drunk on tour, so. I don't know where you're getting this idea, and all of a sudden, like all the comments were gone. They were just deleted. I'm like, well, okay. So I don't know. It was really bizarre, but it's funny to kind of see people come up with their own stories.
Yeah.
Like he was drunk and he was an asshole and he was naked on the roof and who knows? Like I don't know. Just weird stuff like that. Like, he keyed my van. Like I don't know. Just weird stories like that I think that people kind of want to be part of the story, and they kind of like to watch people fall.
The sensationalism.
Like yeah, it's like that weird. It's like that weird tendency of like people wanting to kind of see somebody just like hit rock bottom just to see what it looks like or something. I don't know if that's like the intent, but it's just like, damn, freaking ruthless internet. But I don't know. It's odd. It's definitely odd.
Yeah.
But
so moving forward, I've seen you. You've been reconnecting with your old band, Dry Season.
Yeah. I got back, and then like a week later, it was my old drummer's birthday. Cake. He actually did the drums on the Fallen Theory stuff.
Okay.
Because we didn't have a drummer at the time, so it was me and the guitar player. Kind of, he wrote all the riffs, and then I would kind of structure the songs, and then I would write like the basic drum beats that I kind of wanted for the thing, and then the bass, and then I would take that down to Medford, and Cake would kind of elaborate on the drums a little bit more and make it cooler.
Okay.
I'd come back, retrack the bass parts were there, and then John would then finish all the final tracks for guitar and bass. Once those were done, we had like the instrumental stuff like done, then I would do the final vocals on it. But so Cake was a part of that project, and then Dry Season had been active for about 4 years, back through, I think it was like through 2008 through 2013. I came in second. I was a second vocalist on that band, as well, and kind of wrote the album with them. And we'd done like the Last Band Standing competition, which is like it's like an 8-week long Battle of the Bands competition type thing where it's kind of like a bracket thing, and it comes down to like the final two. So we did that, and then we had gigs with like Papa Roach, Hinder, Brian Welch, Smile Empty Soul, like a bunch of random bands. We got to play with those guys, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And then in 2011, in February, our guitar player died.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he died in a car crash. He's tattooed on my arm, terribly.
Oh wow!
But so he died in a car crash. He spent a week in the ICU here in Eugene. We're from Medford, and so after he passed away, we took a couple months off. We did like some acoustic shows, and then we tried to rebuild the band where I would play guitar and sing, and then we were like, okay, well let's bring this other dude in. So we brought this other guy in, and he had issues like with bipolar disorder, and like an incredible artist, but also like just kind of like a walking mess in real life. So we had to let him go, and then he came back in, and we let him go again, and then I was on guitar for a while, and this was back in like 2013, I think it must have been. And it eventually just got to the point where it's like, yo, if we're going to save this band, we need to end it for a while. And so we did.
Yeah.
And we had a second record like in the works back then of all the stuff that Jesse had started working on. And so I get back from tour, and it was Cake's birthday, and he's like, "We're doing a big barbecue. I'm gonna smoke all this meat," and he did, man. He had a freaking dude. He has like this big old like Traeger smoker thing, and oh man, the dude just like went all out. It was awesome. But so it was all four of us, the four remaining members of Dry Season, and like we just hung out, shot the shit, talked a bunch. Pulled up like all the old demos and like listened through all the recordings and things like that. At one point, like Jason, the other guitar player, and I like sat down, and Cake sat behind the drums, and like we just started jamming the songs that we hadn't played in 5 or 6 years. We just like sat down and just started jamming through them. And we're like, oh crap, we got it still, you know. And like he's like trying to figure parts out, and I'm like, I think it's this. And he's like, oh shit, yeah. And he like hops back on board, and then so it's this back and forth, kind of like relearning all this stuff. And I came home and like sat down and like played the record for the first time in like 6 years or whatever, or 5 years, and we hit him up. I kind of hit him up. I was like, yo, you know, back in the day, like all there was like CD Baby, or like the other, or you'd have to have like an actual or like distribution company that you could hire to like put your stuff out on the market.
Yeah.
Now it's like there's DistroKid, so it's like you can pay $20 a year and release however much music you want to. I'm like, this is a no-brainer. We should just make this record and put it out. See if it gains any traction, and kind of go from there, and see if maybe like if we want to do some live shows or a CD release thing, or like plan a short tour or whatever. Because it's like now we're all like post 30 years old, so it's like we've kind of grown and gotten our shit figured out, and like some of us have like mellowed out. Some of us are just like, our drummer Cake his feet are insane now, like one of the best drummers I've heard in forever, and just super tight. I don't know. It's crazy, but it's like we're all kind of in the headspace now where it's like we could actually do this much better. Yeah. And the technology's gotten better, so it's like we could put out a better sounding record in general. I don't know. It's definitely in the works. I think we're gonna go for it. You know, Cake's been blowing up my phone all morning, like, oh, I gotta figure out how to record this and that again. I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, just do it. So I think we're gonna go, you know, the DI route, and probably like reamp stuff and put a record out there and see if it see if it gets any listens, just for the hell of it. It's like,
oh, you know, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, we can self-release it. You know, we can mix and master the thing for free and put it on the internet for $20. It's like, why not?
I'm sure you've learned plenty of shit from Fluff on how to do all that stuff too.
I learned a lot of cool inside business type stuff that was that really worked out well, and I've learned a lot about the industry in that regard for sure. So hopefully I can kind of take that and apply it to Dry Season or a new band, or if I do a solo endeavor of some sort, I can kind of form a band around that and just see what happens. But I think we're going to do it. I posted a little clip of the song Wrong on my Instagram and things, and it's a pretty cool song. Like it was a much softer edge. The second record was a lot softer than the first one. There was a lot more screaming and that kind of thing. And then the second one had a lot more clean vocals, and it had moments of like heavy stuff. So I don't know. We'll see if it goes. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it sticks. We'll see if it we can put it out and see if it gets a following. If it does, and there's enough people that actually give a damn, then we'll probably pursue some shows and try to book some things. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I
look forward to it, man. So when you started doing vocals, did you start screaming or did you start singing?
I think I started singing first. Like I learned how to sing to like Stained and Seether. Like in my car driving back and forth to Medford all the time. With like a half an hour drive, so I'd sit there and just like blare it and try to figure out the techniques. And then like Breaking Benjamin kind of like changed the way I approached vocals and stuff.
Yes.
And then the real switch was when I discovered Coheed and Cambria. And I was like, what is this? This guy's voice is freaking weird. So then that worked on extending my range. And then it was like, I'd sing along like Paramore and that kind of stuff to kind of get those higher notes more and more as I kind of grew. And then but then also like the screaming stuff of Norma Jean or Kill Switch and all these different influences I try to just mimic for a really long time. And it wasn't really until Fallen Theory, I'd say, that I really discovered like what my voice was. But then in Rest Repose, like I actually got real vocal lessons because I've come to find out I was singing wrong like most of my life. And ironically,
I feel like that's where I'm at. if something's gonna click, and I'm gonna be like, whoa.
It's crazy, man. Like some of the stuff that you do to like keep your voice. Ironically, I went to vocal lessons for avoiding fatigue and longevity on the road, but you can't apply that shit when you're sick.
No.
So but otherwise, like the only reason that I got through as many shows as I did was because of those techniques that I learned from the vocal coach. But at the same time, like, you also kind of find like your own voice in that process of like of writing or of applying these techniques that you probably didn't know before, like keeping your larynx down and being able to hit high notes without choking yourself out, like all these really, really interesting things. Like volume is a big part of hitting high notes.
Yes.
And then there's also like the stuff that I do live, where it's not like a scream, but it's not singing. It's like this weird kind of like Dustin Kinsrew thrice kind of belting type thing.
That's a technique I've been working on for a couple years now. It's like a toned scream.
Yeah,
where you actually put a little bit of your voice into it.
Yeah, it's really difficult. The problem is like there's a technique and how to do it right, and I didn't quite have it figured out 100%. So a lot of the times it's kind of searching for it. But but like that's one that, because you're not going low volume and you're not also like singing super high notes, it does have a little bit of wear. It does cause a little bit of wear and tear or a little bit of fatigue in general. But the techniques that I was able to learn, I was able to do it in certain parts, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. I can just smooth sail through this part, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the word emerging or whatever from Retrospect, like that first word became like way easier to do. And I don't know, it's just cool. I think it's like the note's like an F sharp or something like that, which is like where most people crack their voice. So it's like right at that spot, I can do that little overdrive thing, and it's like, oh, I always called it a vocal overdrive.
Yeah, I
didn't know what else it's called.
You did the FAQ Monday with Fluff, and I just popped up on my recommended videos the other day. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it again. I'm getting ready to talk to this guy. And so you were talking about that. Yeah, it's such a cool concept because as soon as you said vocal overdrive, one, I knew exactly what part.
Yeah.
And two, I knew exactly what you were talking about because I've been studying vocal techniques. My buddy Ryan Strain, he's up around the Seattle area. He does vocal covers and stuff for years, and I connected with him because he did an Across the Sun vocal cover.
Oh, cool.
He did like a tutorial series where he taught people how to scream in all these different ranges and all these different techniques, and the tone scream or the overdrive is one of them.
Yeah.
It's something I'm still trying to figure out. I've figured it out in certain ways, in certain aspects, but it's a struggle, and it's continual learning, you know?
It's weird. Like if you don't think about it as much, like if you don't psych yourself out before you do it, it kind of comes naturally. Mm-hmm. And like, that's kind of, I think that's another thing too, is like live, there's so much pressure on that tour because there's so much writing on it. As far as like label support and these things that we're all looking at the band. So it's like anytime that I had to hit some note that was going to be like a big one or whatever, like I kind of got psyched out a little bit and kind of choked it up. I was like, oh fuck, here we go. So I'm like, oh damn it. You know, like it was just a weird, stupid thing. It's psychological blockages.
Oh yeah.
So like that part kind of sucked, but for the most part, like, and then other parts, like once you hit it, you're like, oh, okay, we're good now. It's fine. So there are a lot of weird vocal techniques and just weird stuff for warm-ups that you wouldn't think of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like look at Melissa Cross, all that stuff.
Yeah, the Marge Simpson voice, or making siren noises, or like all this weird stuff. Like you make the siren noise, but you keep your larynx down as much as you can, or you find your highest note that you can hit, and then you try to do like 5 notes past it, and like that conditions your voice to hit those notes easier.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you're hitting a really high note, you bump up one, and it kind of like snaps and engages your voice to do what you want it to do. And it's just weird. Like normally you would go, you hit that note and you kind of have a tendency to kind of like come down. But I was taught like you hit the note and you go higher, and then it evens out, and it's kind of like stretching the rubber band, and now it's a little bit like looser, that kind of a thing. So like there's all sorts of really interesting techniques in vocal training.
My biggest issue I've come across in terms of like trying to train my own voice and expand my horizons per se is like I can't get over the whole I feel stupid doing this.
Right? Know? Yeah. No. It's weird.
Tough.
It is really weird, and it's interesting. Like the first, because I'm one of those people that's really shy about like just sing something, and I'm like, no, no, I can't just do that. It's like going to a vocal coach, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna play this piano. I want you to like run this scale with me. So I'm like there, and I'm kind of just doing it at like a low volume. She's like, no, stand in the other room and project. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I go in the other room. So I'm like on the other side of the room, and you know, just doing something. She's like, okay, you're gonna hold your cheeks and you're gonna make sounds over there. I'm like, okay. She's like, I want you to drown out the piano entirely. It's like, okay. So I'm sitting on the other side of the room, like all this weird stuff the whole time for like 5 minutes or whatever, and then doing ehs and ahs. Turns out that like I and a, those vowels, will like wreck your voice over time. So they're because it naturally raises your larynx. So like so saying words like I, you have to kind of turn into like an sound, and you turn into like eh. So like eh. So all of these different things that you kind of learn, or hitting like super high notes, like taking the microphone and kind of angling it out, going off axis and going out here. Ooh. It picks up all the high notes, but it doesn't pick up the breath. It doesn't pick up the release at the end of it, like when you're hitting like like, and you kind of let it off. So there's all these really crazy things that I learned on this whole thing, in the vocal lessons, and trying to apply that live when you're so used to doing things wrong for a decade.
Yeah, it's all muscle memory and
yeah. So it's like trying to go from like I can't turn my eyes away, can't turn my uhs away. It's just a weird thing. So you're doing this really interesting kind of adaptation, kind of learning that through all the other ridiculous factors that were involved in all of that sort of thing. So it's a learning curve, man. Like when you've been doing things, and I can't think of any other words right now but there's like other parts that just have like hard A's and I vowels, and changing those into something else. It's just it's quite the adjustment period. So.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I did vocals for my buddy's band a couple months ago, and boy was it rough.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been like for my own bands, like I haven't been live for 7 years now. And
wow.
It's taken everything out of me, because that's all I want. But
yeah.
No, so like it was just weird being up there again and trying to not butcher their song, and and all the while still trying to kick ass. And I had somebody approach me afterwards. They're like, dude, do you have a band right now? And it's somebody that knows me and I hang out with regular. Like, dude, do you have a band? I'm like, not really, that does anything. I have an internet project where I just do vocals, and he does all the instruments, and we just release whatever. And I was like, no, nothing in the live. He's like, you should do this more. I'm like, fuck, don't tell me that. Like,
oh yeah. That's a good way to do it, for sure. Yeah.
One of the things that's like kept me from pursuing bands and stuff more often, or trying, like, is when I finally get a band, I have the hardest time writing. Like,
really?
my life, I have a good life. Like, I have nothing negative in my life to, inspire me. And
Sure.
I've tried. When I started writing lyrics, I didn't have music. I just had lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into a band and I started writing the lyrics based off of what the music made me feel, trying to fit it in and all that. And it's just gotten so difficult to write, and everything's so hazy about, like, when it comes to writing now. It's frustrating.
It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I can't remember who it was, but it was like, I think it was Sean Morgan from Seether. He goes, because people were like, why do you write such negative songs all the time? And he's like, well, that's my way of getting rid of it all.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you have positive experiences, like, you want to hang on to those. Like, you don't want to really purge those out. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to look at it, because so, like, with the stuff that we were working on for Repose, like, I started writing about all the positive stuff, and it felt weird. It kind of just felt like, what am I doing here? Whereas, like, the negative shit, like, you can kind of expel it and let it go. But, like, the positive things, like, they're harder to write about without sounding cheesy, I guess.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, Killswitch did that kind of a thing for a long time, where they wrote positive songs, and they did, or they at least put a positive twist on things.
Mm-hmm. That's one I've always loved Killswitch for that. And like,
Same.
just, yeah. What is your what would you say is, like, the weirdest influence you have? Like, any band?
Not weirdest, but, like, I'm a huge Panic at the Disco fan.
Okay.
I love him, dude. I love that. I love Brendan Urie's voice, and his writing and just talent in general is just insane. People are like, what's your guilty pleasure? I'm like, well, it's not a guilty pleasure. I freaking love Panic at the Disco, and I'm super public about it, because I just think that dude is so insanely talented. So that's probably one thing that I would probably say that's probably not expected. A lot of people think, like, oh, he's a metal guy. He likes metal, death metal. I'm like, no. I listen to, like, a lot of, like, horrendous, like, pop stuff, or, like, I love chill acoustic music and those sorts of things. So I don't know. It just kind of depends on the mood, I guess.
My weirdest one that some people probably would never guess is Yellow Card. Good old Ocean Avenue.
I think I saw them, like, a long time ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't get to see them until it was their farewell tour. And that sucked,
oh, really?
But yeah, is what it is. I drove up to Milwaukee for that. And yeah. Well, speaking of, like, so you like acoustic stuff, I absolutely loved that little cover you did of Hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Thrice. And I have this habit, so I've never really listened to Thrice, but I have this habit of, I'll hear a cover of a song and I won't know it's a cover. Like,
okay.
I did that with Holy Diver. I did that with, I think Devil Driver did Wasted Years by Iron Maiden, and just all kinds of covers. And I'm like, hell yeah, I love this song. And then, like, sooner or later I'll find out, oh, they didn't actually write that song, and then I'll hear the original. But goddamn, that cover of Hurricane was awesome.
Thanks, man. I did a couple others on my channel. I think I did, like, a little Dustin Kinzer thing for, like, a mic test.
Okay.
Also, but yeah, there's a few on there. But I don't know. At some point, I think I'm gonna try to maybe live stream, like, one of my acoustic sets and just see if I can put them out there, because I do a bunch of weird covers, and, like, I'm a huge Thrice fan, huge Dustin Kinzer fan. He did one that was he did a live covers album, and so he does, like, stuff by, like, Lord, and like, he does a Wrecking Ball cover that's, like, mind blowing. What else? Gosh, he does a Cold War Kids song. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. He does, like, Hide and Seek acoustic, which is, like, insanely good. I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. Turning, like, pop songs into something that actually feels good and like
Yeah,
has some
right.
substance. It's like it's really surprising. Like the delivery of like a song like Wrecking Ball, the dude can take, and people kind of like watch it and they kind of giggle and they're like, it's Wrecking Ball, he's doing Miley Cyrus, and then like by the bridge part, people are just dead silent, just blown away because he's standing 4 feet away from a microphone with an acoustic guitar and just belting out this whole part. And it's just like the most powerful thing. So like I've been trying to make this habit of like finding songs like that to kind of do the same thing. I can't seem to find any that I really like, but instead I just copy him and it goes well.
It's possible. I mean, my buddy, we have an open mic thing. I mean, just every Tuesday, and my buddy goes to it and he sings Scrub by TLC on acoustic.
Nice.
It catches everybody off.
That's so awesome.
It caught me off. I mean, I was just sitting there hanging out with him one night, and he just out of nowhere, I couldn't tell what he was singing until it came to the chorus, but he was singing "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion.
Oh my gosh.
Just off the wall stuff. It cracks me up.
That's so great. I love that kind of thing, man. It's always fun.
Oh yeah. So let's move on a little bit to real world shit.
Real world shit.
Kind of
okay.
still in the realm of music.
All right.
So about a month ago, As I Lay Dying releases a new song.
Yeah.
Have you checked that out?
I honestly haven't.
Okay.
I never really got into them.
Okay. But are you familiar with the whole Tim Lambesis?
Oh yeah.
Drama?
I mean, I read this. I read the news for sure.
Oh yeah.
That was a situation, man. No, I never really got into them too much. I liked Austrian Death Machine.
Hell yeah.
and I love Woven War because man, I thought that was brilliant. That was
that
brilliant.
first album, just awesome.
Yeah. I mean that, and plus they, having Shane on vocals. I mean, he was the guitar player for Oh Sleeper back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So that was rad. Yeah.
Nice.
Saw them on accident actually, with Nothing More in Periphery. So,
nice.
But yeah, I didn't really follow the Tim Lambesis stuff too closely. Not really. I mean, I've listened to them before. I remember like maybe 2 songs, like Confined and whatever the other one was, but
Okay.
I've never really followed it too much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do you have an opinion on all of this? Like them getting back as I Lay Dying and back with Tim after everything?
My understanding though is like that As I Lay Dying is like actually Tim's project of his own, I guess, and that the band members are kind of like hired on for touring and things like that. I from what I've been told, I don't really know the whole story or what exactly how that works. But that's what I've read certain places and just through. I mean, it's the internet, man. Like it's so hard to say.
It's kind of like that. Like
Yeah.
they still write and all that, but he does the majority of the writing. And it's
Right,
him
right.
and their drummer Jordan. They
yeah.
both they're the only 2 people with names on the As I Lay Dying. Like they own the rights.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's still a collaborative effort for the most part.
I actually auditioned for a band with Jordan as the drummer.
Oh,
like
no
a long
kidding.
time ago. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Didn't know how to record for shit, but yeah, it was after all that. It was after, yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, I don't really know. Because a lot of people are like, well, we don't support him because he tried to kill his wife. I'm like, I can't really argue that. So
No.
I don't know.
No, you can't.
Like,
it's a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough place to be in, but at the same time, it's like we have people that support NFL teams that have players that beat the shit out of their wives, or we've got, a president who's faced up to, groping people and these sorts of things. So it's kind of like, I guess you kind of pick and choose your battles selfishly. Like if you like the music and you can get over the fact that, the dude tried to hire a hitman to kill his wife. Like if you're cool with that, support, support it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's just such a weird gray area where it's like because it's so hard to be a fan of music when it's not when it's written by a person that has had a past history of doing things like that, or I mean, but at the same time, it's like people can change, people can reform. He did his time, and even if somebody is like a massive piece of shit, let's say, if they've got that little spark in them that someday they can change, like I think that everybody should be afforded that courtesy to do that.
I believe so too.
To dig that deep into themselves, but it's like you have to reform yourself to be able to do that. And from what I understand, it's like the dude's turned his life around, and he's back doing music. So, and maybe some good will come of it. Maybe the supporters will engage him in a way that he can, move past whatever that is if he hasn't already, and fans can also see that like he's a reformed person at this point in time.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I really, I came into As I Lay Dying late in the game. I saw them; they were one of my first concerts, but I just wasn't into that kind of heavy yet.
Right,
and I was still into like Disturbed and Pantera and shit. So like I didn't like them then, but then they came out with this album Awakened. It was their last album that they came out with, and that it was just one of those albums that really spoke to me because I was going through a lot of inner turmoil in terms of like religion and whatnot.
Sure.
So like that kind of gave me and that's what that album's about. It's about Tim because he's got a master's in Christian theology. And shit.
Wow.
And he's always they've always been termed a Christian metal band, and he's like we're not a Christian metal band, but yeah, those themes are in our music. But
sure, yeah.
So he was going through that same struggle. Like the more he learned about it, the more he was like, I don't know if this is what I believe anymore. So like he put that in his lyrics, and I ended up getting like the album art tattooed on my inner arm, and
oh wow,
because that album just meant so much to me in terms of that, and it was just one of those pushes that kind of pushed me away from religion. Nothing against it; it's just not for me. I don't know what your stance is, but it's just I always preach that if it fulfills you and you're not hurting somebody, by all means go for it. But it's not for me.
Totally. I mean, the same sort of thing happened with Under Oath. They kind of strayed away from that on this last record because they had some time to kind of figure their lives out.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone kind of adapts faith to their own ways of life. Like just like every other Abrahamic religion has its own cultural injections into its religion. Like you take things from certain places and you can apply it to whatever walk of life or whatever culture you're brought up in. So I think that like as in this day and age, like you can look back at religious themes and kind of read them literally rather than literally, which I think is a mistake that a lot of people make, is they look at the things in the Bible or the Quran or whatever other religion, modern day religion, and they kind of go, well, this says that it's kind of like, well, if you have tattoos and you wear mixed clothing, like you're not, mixed thread clothing, like that's bad or it's a sin or whatever. Or if you eat, frog legs, like you're the sinner and you're disgusting and that's dirty. And like, these sorts of things, like
these applied to things when it was written.
Right. So there are things that because like I myself, I do believe in God and I have kind of an interesting outlook on all of that. But, I wouldn't consider myself like a great Christian, but at the same time, like I think that a lot of people that are true Christians are kind of a mess. They're humble enough and they realize enough that they're not perfect human beings. Because I think that a lot of the big misconception is kind of drawn from churches where you're in your Sunday best and life is perfect and there's nothing wrong because you've got God and you've got Jesus or you've got Allah or you've got whatever. But the reality is, most of the time, real Christians and real people that follow a specific faith, like they're struggling and they're imperfect people and they are not working through, and they're not always doing their best to work through things. They're fighting the tendency to maintain control of their own lives. rather than giving it up to, let's say, God or the universe or karma or the spirit or the force or the matrix or whatever you want to call it. It's all kind of the same thing. You know what I mean? And but at the same time, like if you read the Bible from front to back, it's an evolution of consciousness, and it ends in the last chapter in Revelation. So it's like if that narrative had continued from the point that it stopped being written, how much of it would have probably changed to be in the modern day? So, you look at, I think that there's the obvious things like don't murder people, don't steal people, don't bang other people's wives. Like that kind of thing is like, that's pretty universally morally like, duh. But there's also other aspects that I think that may have evolved over time. And that maybe people would make more exceptions to, like gay marriage. Like I know a lot of gay Christian couples. Yeah. Think about that for a second. It's like, is it sexual sin? Well, I don't know if they're completely monogamous and they're waiting. Let's say they're waiting on sex till marriage, but they're gay, but they're Christian. Does that not deserve the same respect and love that like everything else that straight people get in the Bible? I don't know. It's just one of those things that I can't help but kind of think would have evolved if that narrative had continued. Like, well, because like Jesus was a liberal dude. Like he was standing up to like crazy theocracies and like the military superpower of Rome, like all these sorts of things, and basically like standing up for poor people and poor people's rights and these sorts of things throughout the Gospels and stuff. So it's like there has to be. I just can't imagine any world where like that expansion of consciousness would have just stopped, and we should look back at it and go, if it was just like ancient Rome, things would be so much better. No, I don't know. So I think that a lot of Christians, when they start reading the Bible literally and they start putting things into context of the time and place and culture and the world in which it was written in, you start to kind of see some of the flaws or how it might not apply to modern thinking. So I think that like with As I Lay Dying in those religious themes, or like Under Oath takes things to that place where they kind of go, well, I'm struggling with this and I don't think that it's really this. So maybe it's this instead. And it kind of challenges faith, not necessarily losing faith. I don't think that they've all just gone like atheist or agnostic or anything like that. Like even Aaron and Spencer are like, they mention God in their albums, and even I have a song that I'm going to be putting out called "Save Me," which is like a moment in my life where I broke down on the side of the road, had a massive anxiety attack, and it was the first time I'd spoken to God in like 10 years. I was like, "Dude, help me!" And I just felt this calm come over me. So like, there's a song about that, and a lot of the times, like whenever I do write about faith, it's usually about the struggle of it, because having faith in something in general. Like when you walk out your door every morning, right? Mm-hmm. And you walk down the street, you are taking a leap of faith that you're not going to walk out your front door and get shot, or that the ground's not going to collapse beneath your feet and you're going to die. And it's like, if you eat food, you're not going to poison yourself and die. If you drink a fluid, you're not going to drown. If you take a shower, you're not going to have your skin melted off. Like you do all these normal things all day long that are technically acts of faith. But they're faith within reason, because they've proven themselves over and over and over again that they're not going to backfire on you. Whereas something where you have faith in this entity that you can't wrap your mind around, or that you can't even fathom because it's so expansive and it's so beyond our understanding, and then it's misinterpreted and it's given likeness of a big man with a beard in the clouds, or it's a spaghetti monster, or it's Cthulhu, or whatever you look at and whatever you think it's going to be. People change it and they kind of bend it to their will, and they kind of bend it to using it as like ammo or fuel for your own agenda type of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's all these interpretations of like what God and faith and all these different things are. So it's so clouded and it's so out there that it's so easy to misinterpret, and it's so hard to have faith in. It's so hard to have faith in it when you have faith in the dumbest things. Like when I put gas in my car, it's not going to explode. And now there's reasons why. It's within reason. Like that it's a machine that operates a certain way. It's built a certain way. So there's certain things that you have assurance in.
Yeah.
Faith is not something that you have any assurance in. It's just something that you have or you don't. And when you have it, you can follow it blindly or you can do it within reason, where it's like these things have panned out. Like my best friend / ex-girlfriend / whatever has been struggling to open this business of hers for like a year. And
lost you a little bit there.
There you go. Oh, there you are.
Yep.
Got you back. And time and time again, when she's, put her feelers out there and had faith in this business, certain things have happened. Like random donors would come in and donate money or equipment and these sorts of things. So it's like, that's one of those things that's kind of like faith and reason, where it's like, it's been proven enough times that it's like it's just a no-brainer, and you can have faith in something like that. Whereas a lot of other people don't ever get that. They don't get that communication from God or beyond or the universe or karma or whatever term you like. But it's just so there's people that just can't do the blind faith thing, and I don't blame them. The version of God that I grew up with was not the one that I know now. It was terrifying. It was just, it was crazy out there.
Doom and gloom.
Bizarre. Yeah. It's like you get the fire and brimstone type folks that are like, I want to save your soul because you're going to burn in hell for eternity. And it's like, wow, I don't, but he loves you. You know what I mean? Like,
I never followed that. But
he loves you and he needs money. I'm like, what the fuck? It's super weird. So there's a lot of stuff with that. So when I see bands that kind of have the chance to express those things in music, I think it's brilliant. Yes. I think that like bands like Oh Sleep, or where it's not a lot of like thank you Jesus, or thank you God, or thank you whatever, instead of like, hey, where are you? Please help. I'm drowning in heroin, Spencer Chamberlain, or I'm struggling with sex addiction or something crazy like that. Like, and then they reach out to those things and they don't get an answer, and it's kind of like, well, maybe it's a test, maybe it's this or that. But I always found it really amazing to see bands that are honest and questioning things like that, because I think that when you question things, you are hotter on the pursuit of truth than just accepting things and being complacent with just what was written 2,000 years ago, And that's where a lot of people that's where they go wrong, or maybe it's where they go right. It's really hard to say. It's kind of having like this walk of faith can kind of be, you just kind of have to guess like, I guess I'm going the right direction. And if I'm not, then it'll eventually correct itself. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, man. Like there's not, I don't think that there's a right or wrong way necessarily. I think that like if you're doing whatever you're doing and it's not hurting anyone, you're probably doing something right.
Exactly.
But of course,
right there.
Yeah, but of course the religious part of that goes and kind of counters with, well, if you don't believe in X, Y, Z, then you're gonna burn in hell, or you're not gonna get to see your 72 virgins or whatever that might be. It's really interesting. But like,
I just have the rule of thumb: don't be a piece of shit.
Right.
And it's not hard. It's not a hard rule to follow.
Yeah, I mean, and it's what's weird about that, like, because you can sit there and say that, and it's like, and if you look at it, like, if God is real, and somebody lives their entire life being a piece of shit and harming people and stealing and murdering and all these sorts of things, and then the very last day on their deathbed, they turn to God and say, "Save me, forgive me," blah blah blah. Does that guy get a pass to heaven?
Well, I mean,
and vice versa, and vice versa. Let's say somebody's a faithful religious person their entire life, and then like one day, their whole family gets killed in a car crash, and they go, "I hate you, God. I'm done with you," and then they get hit by a bus, and now they're going to hell. It's just crazy. Like those sorts of things like that. I'm just like, I can't imagine where it's like you get to the pearly gates or whatever, and someone's like, man, you lived your whole life righteously, but the last day you fucked it up.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Really dropped the ball
crazy.
there, pal.
Yeah. I know, your whole family died and you didn't thank me. Whoa, like that's weird to me. And same thing, well, yeah, you murdered 30 people, but at least you asked for forgiveness. You're free to go.
You
That's
said the
weird.
magic words.
So it's hard to say that, like, you know, if you're not, just not being a piece of shit is enough, and vice versa. So I don't know, it's hard because I know a lot of piece of shit Christians that are just incredibly self-righteous and self-serving, and they twist things and they use God as fuel for their own agendas, and it's so easy to twist it around. So I don't know, man. I don't know. The only thing that I've been able to figure out is kind of like letting go and trusting.
Yeah.
And that's something that on this tour I was even like, yo, if I'm meant to do this, keep me out here. Help me recover tonight. And later on I get a message like, you're going home. I'm like, shit. Okay, well, I guess and I could sit there and I could try to fight it and like, no, this is wrong. But at the same time, it's like, well, okay. I guess I have to trust that I'm going home for another reason, something that's bigger than this, and that's going to be better in the long run. I don't know what else it could be. So I don't know, man. Like there are tests like that, and they're not pointless. There's lessons in patience. There's lessons in self-control and growth and these sorts of things. And can you do it without religion? Yeah, I think you can. I think that at some point in time, like, you have to ask for help, whether it's God, universe, karma, whatever system you believe in. But the thing is, like, they're all systems, and they're all connected, and they're all pointing to the one thing, anyways, whatever you call it. But you know, it's not a man. It's because as soon as you call it a man or a being or whatever, you're putting that in a box, and where it's like, it's so expansive and so interconnected. It's like, I don't know. It can be anything, really. But I had chances to talk to, like I said, when I was in Kalamazoo, I got to talk to these two Muslim dudes. It was rad, super cool, super nice guys. And then same thing on my cab ride home, or cab ride from the airport to Jared's house, where I had to get my car. I got this dude Muhammad picked me up in an Uber, and like him and I talked for like an hour on the way back, and like we started talking about the differences in just the same religions, and it was really cool to kind of like draw these parallels, and also see like the differences in how things are worded per culture, and like at the end of it, like we just like shook hands and we're like, dude, this was the coolest religious conversation I've ever had. And he was like, yeah, this was really rad. Like I was so stoked to have like an actual like peaceful religious conversation. And I was like, dude, this has been like a more intuitive conversation than I've had with most other Christians. And he kind of laughed. He's just like, wow, you know, because it's so incredibly fulfilling when you just open the door of communication.
Yeah,
definitely. And kind of lay down your prejudices or your misconceptions and just ask questions and find out that there's more common ground than there is different stuff. But that guy's story was amazing. He was from like Somalia, and his wife was in Somalia. Like he was like sent out of the country like during their civil war and shit, like back in like the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, that guy had a life, man, and like such a super sweet, peaceful dude. Like I don't know, it was really, really cool. But like just and like getting on that topic was kind of nerve wracking, because even you know, there's such a massive misconception that like, oh, Muslims are violent. Well, no, they're not.
No, not at all.
There's because we have
everybody has extremists.
Yeah, there's extremists and fundamentalists that take shit way too far in every religion. Like there was even like, wasn't there like oh my gosh, it was a couple of years ago, but it was like Hindu monks were like slaughtering people. Like what? That's crazy. Or there's like the God hates fags dumbasses out at Westboro.
Westboro. Yeah.
And it's like there's people that are like lynching gay people and like shooting black people and like all this crazy shit because they do it in the name of God or Christianity. And like Well, you missed the point, man. You read the book,
Yeah.
but you completely missed the point.
At
like,
what point did we say kill the fags?
Yeah, right.
Like,
it's like, what the?
No,
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. So there's people that just use shit and they twist it and they use it
exactly
the wrong way. And really, we don't really necessarily know the right way of anything except for like, love thy neighbor. That means everybody, not just the ones you like. That means everybody. And
that's my philosophy is live in love.
Yeah, dude. Everybody that I meet starts at a 10, and if they give me a reason to not give them a 10, then they start to kind of go down on the scale of like how much I can trust or how much I can open up to or discuss with them. And because I bring people in close and then I create the boundaries as they prove themselves unworthy of being 10s.
I like that.
But I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt because it's like, why would you not?
Yeah, exactly.
Most people want to just communicate. Most people want to just have a friend or somebody to talk to. And sometimes I complain about it because I get cornered by like random people at like anytime I ever go to a bar. Like there's this one in town here called the Horsehead. Every time I go there, some random like super drunk dude will be like, "Hey, dude, I was just walking down the street." And I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." But then I'll talk to him for like a half an hour, and it turns out like the dude has like PTSD from the military, and his wife cheated on him with his brother, and like all these crazy stuff. And it's like, oh, wow, you discover things about people that you would have never known before if you didn't take the time to just talk with people. Maybe you have that boundary up in the beginning, but I don't know, man. There's so much life, and there's so many individuals, and like
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, man. And like that's my biggest like source of sadness of not being on tour anymore is because I don't get to meet people and have those connections and have conversations like the ones that we're having right now. And luckily you've got a podcast.
Yeah.
Otherwise I probably never would have talked to you again, man. And
I'm super glad like we reached out.
Yeah, me too.
So
it's just quality conversations like that. And I love that stuff. I love connecting people on a real level of human element.
Yes.
And just talking about shit.
That's what this show is all about, is just conversing as human beings, as people, connecting it on some level.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love having this show. I love being able to do this with people like you, with people in my own town, people that I love dearly.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, we're starting to get a little late on the show though. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and call it, all right?
All right, man. Yeah, it's been great. I'm down to come on anytime you want. So,
Tanner, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you so much luck going forward. Is there anything you'd like to plug, like going forward?
I mean, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm kind of trying to get going again. If you want to check it out, just look up my name on YouTube. I had like 3 channels, and some of them have like old band stuff, and the other one has like new stuff. But other than that, I mean,
I'll go ahead and post.
I have nothing else to plug. Yeah,
I'll post the link on my feed. Hopefully get some people your way.
Sure.
That'd be awesome. I want people to hear your music because it's been so impactful on me, myself personally, and I want somebody else to feel that. And I've been trying to push Rest Repose for however long. I think last year, like right around this time last year, I did a stupid live video where I was shaving my face. Like I had a full beard and I was just shaving my face, and I had the self-titled album just playing in the background. And I was like, hey, if you haven't heard Rest Repose, check this album out. Like they have two CDs. This is a new singer, and I love this album. It's great. Check it out. And it's just playing.
Nice.
And it was fun. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
So. One of the things I like to do to close out the show is I have a little saying, it's so my first name's Dick, and there some days you wake up and you look down and you're like, man, it's gonna be a good day. My dick looks big. I got a big dick today.
Having
it's gonna be
day.
a good
yeah. No, I can identify with that. Yeah.
So like I always try to remind everybody, make every day a big dick day.
There you go.
So thank you again.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next Thursday or live next Tuesday. We'll see. I don't know what's going on. We're doing a little time traveling today. But bye, guys. All right. We are done recording.
Right on, man.
All right. Thanks again for joining.
Dude. Thanks for having me.
Live feed's still going, but so everybody, this has been Tanner Cowens. And please check out his YouTube page and all that. And just keep following this guy. He's doing big things. I know he is. But I'm going to head out of here, so I'll see you later, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. It's been a blast. See you later.
Take care.
You too. All right, guys. That was it. That was oh shit, microphone. That was it. That was the Tanner Cowens interview. I was so nervous going into this, but I got to get going. So tomorrow night, I'm going to go see Seven Dust, and my buddies Catalytic are opening up for them. But you'll get Tyler and his wife Skylar tomorrow. So enjoy that live show. This episode that I just recorded will be up on Thursday, and you can check it out on any of the podcasting platforms like Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, iTunes, Spotify, on the Journey into Comics Network. So thank you guys for joining. Please make every day a Big Dick Day.